When did you finally realize someone hated you so much they'd stop at nothing to ruin your life? What if the woman who gave birth to the love of your life decided you were the enemy, going so far as to stalk you, sabotage your marriage, and even weaponize your pregnancy against you? My story isn't just about a controlling mother-in-law. It's about a family conspiracy that nearly destroyed everything. Ryan and I clicked immediately. We met in this random community emergency response class. Total meet cute, right? His family seemed normal at first glance. His dad, Michael, was quiet but seemed nice. His sister, Tara, was genuinely super cool. But Deborah... Oh, Deborah. She was a different story entirely. The first major red flag. Our engagement dinner. Ryan had just stepped away to the bathroom. Deborah leaned across the table, a perfectly pleasant smile plastered on her face, and whispered, "I've waited too long for Ryan to find someone worthy, and I won't let just anyone into our family." Actually laughed. A nervous little chuckle, thinking, surely she's kidding. But her eyes. They were dead serious. An icy warning I dismissed as an overprotective mom. A silly thought I now regret more than anything. After we got married, things escalated with terrifying speed. She'd show up at our apartment at 7 a.m. on weekends, unannounced, claiming to drop off food. But the real reason was obvious: to check if we were both there. Her calls to Ryan became constant, always some emergency. Once, she called him sobbing, convinced she was having a heart attack. We dropped everything, raced over, frantic with worry. We burst in to find her. Just sitting there watching TV. "Oh," she said, completely unfazed. "The pain passed. Stay for dinner." I tried talking to Ryan about it, pouring out my frustration. But he just couldn't see it. He'd spent his entire life dealing with her manipulation, and to him it was just normal. "That's just Mom being protective," he'd say. And I'd scream back, "No, Ryan. This is insane behavior." Then, everything went absolutely nuclear when I got pregnant. We were over the moon but wanted to keep it private for a bit. Somehow Deborah knew. Before we'd told a single soul. She showed up with a tiny baby outfit, a sinister grin on her face, and declared, "For my grandbaby." I was only 6 weeks along. 6 weeks. I asked her, baffled, how she could possibly know. She just smiled, her eyes glittering with a dark triumph. A mother always knows these things. 2 days later, I was checking our shared calendar on Ryan's iPad. That's when I saw them. These weird, recurring appointment notifications. To check in every few days. My blood ran cold. I clicked one and nearly passed out. They were scheduled calls with his mom. Calls where he was supposed to update her on everything about me and the pregnancy. She had been making him spy on me, report back. My stomach churned. When I confronted Ryan, he finally broke. He collapsed into tears, shaking, admitting his mom had always been like this. Controlling everything. He confessed she had access to all his accounts, read all our messages. She'd even installed some family tracking app on his phone that he couldn't figure out how to remove. He said she threatened to cut him off completely if he didn't keep her updated. I was livid, but also terrified. Who does this? We agreed. This had to stop. We'd change all our passwords, create boundaries. Ryan swore he would stand up to her. That night he called her. He told her she needed to respect our privacy. She seemed to take it surprisingly well. Another red flag in hindsight. A week later, my phone started blowing up with weird texts from unknown numbers. Still selling your wedding ring. Still looking for divorce lawyers. Then friends started calling, concerned, asking if Ryan and I were okay because they'd heard we were splitting up. It turned out Deborah had created fake profiles pretending to be me on social media, in local groups, announcing that my marriage was over and I was leaving Ryan. But the absolute worst. My boss called me into his office. He looked incredibly uncomfortable. He showed me an email from my mother. My mom, who died when I was 16. It claimed I had serious mental health issues and was making up my pregnancy for attention. The email had private details about me. Things only someone truly close would know. I literally collapsed in his office. The sheer, calculated cruelty of it. When we confronted Deborah with undeniable evidence of everything, she didn't even deny it. Not a single thing. She looked me dead in the eyes, a predatory gleam in her own, and said, "Ryan deserves a real woman from a good family, not some orphan playing house." I was speechless, frozen. But Ryan went ballistic. For the first time in his life, he yelled at her. He screamed that she was sick, that she needed help. That's when she smiled. Truly terrifying, chilling smile. "I've already called Tara and Michael," she purred. "They're waiting at our house. We need to discuss Ryan's future, and how we're going to handle this situation as a family." Ryan, confused, asked what she meant. "You think this is the first time I've had to save you from a mistake?" she said, her smile widening. "Ask your father what happened to Jessica." Ryan looked like he'd seen a ghost. Jessica. His high school girlfriend who had suddenly moved away. He stammered. What did you do to Jessica?" Deborah just laughed. Cold, dismissive sound. "Nothing she didn't deserve. Now come home, son." Without her. Ryan grabbed my hand. We ran. We just left. In the car, he was shaking so violently he couldn't drive. He told me his dad had always hinted that his mom had taken care of a problem with Jessica, but he never understood what that meant until now. Jessica had gotten pregnant at 17, and then just vanished after only telling Ryan's mom. We went straight to a hotel. Ryan called Tara, putting her on speaker. She started crying immediately. She confirmed our worst fears. Deborah had terrorized every woman Ryan had ever dated. With Jessica, she'd threatened the girl's family with some kind of blackmail until they sent her away. Tara confessed Deborah had a file on me from before we were even engaged. That night at 3 a.m. we heard someone trying to open our hotel room door. A slow, deliberate turn of the handle. Ryan looked through the peephole. He stumbled back, white as a sheet. It was Michael, his dad, just standing there, silently. If you thought it calmed down after that, you're dreaming. That was just the pregame. My life had been carpet-bombed, and now I was being hunted. Ryan and I were basically shaking in a mid-range chain hotel, trying to process his dad's silent, terrifying vigil. I still don't know if he wanted to scare us or if he thought we'd just open the door like obedient children. Either way, it was pure, unadulterated creepiness. Ryan was pale, wired, pacing. I was texting my aunt at 3:20 a.m., wondering if we needed to call the police or build a Home Alone-style booby trap. We did what any panicked, sleep-deprived couple would. Piled a chair and my suitcase against the door, checked the peephole every 5 minutes, and whispered to the front desk. They said they'd check security footage, but by the time anyone showed, Michael was gone. Thanks for nothing, hotel security. Barely slept. When I did, Michael was lurking in my nightmares, sometimes with a butcher knife, sometimes inexplicably with a giant fish. My brain was broken. At 6:30, the manager called. Michael had left something for us at the front desk. The way he said it, polite but profoundly uncomfortable, made my skin crawl. Ryan insisted we shouldn't get it, but I had to know. So I sent him down, phone clutched in my hand, ready to dial 911. He came back up looking weirdly gutted, holding a plain manila envelope. Inside 4 awkward school pictures of him as a kid. And a folded note in Deborah's angry cursive, all sharp points and underlines. "Family is forever. We can forgive you if you come home and talk to us without her." Then, as if that wasn't enough, a little drawn heart and Mom actually laughed. A harsh, almost crying laugh. "Really? This is your play?" Emotional blackmail via yearbook photo. Ryan just sat on the edge of the bed, turning the photos over, silent. Sometimes he gets like this, lost in his head, torn between pleasing his parents and burning everything down. I get it, but it also makes me want to throw things. Then the calls started. First I thought it was spam. But then the hotel phone rang. It was Deborah, her voice fake sweet, high-pitched. She said she was downstairs and needed to speak with her son privately, and that I needed to come down and face the consequences of my actions. I just said, "No, not happening," and hung up. She kept calling. Our cell phones, the hotel line, even Ryan's stupid WhatsApp number he never uses. Each message grew nastier. She threatened to tell everyone the truth about me. That I was unstable, manipulative, unfit to be a mother. She vowed to go to my aunt, my friends, my old neighbors. All because I married her son and wouldn't let her run my life. At this point, Ryan finally snapped out of his fog. He texted Tara. "We need help. Mom is here." Tara, bless her, the only sane one in that family, texted back. "Coming ASAP." And she brought her boyfriend, Devin, who is like 6 feet of pure try-me. I've never been so happy to see 2 people in my entire life. Tara brought coffee and 2 bags of snacks, then immediately started cursing out her mom in the hallway. Devin stood guard at the door, arms crossed like a bouncer. We spent an hour barricaded in that room, all 4 of us passing around burnt coffee, trying to figure out what to do. Ryan was still in shock. Tara paced, ranting about how her mom had lost it. I kept refreshing my phone, half expecting some viral post about me to pop up. Devin just kept muttering that if Michael showed up again, he'd handle it. It was the weirdest double date of my life. Around 10 a.m. it all exploded. Banging on the door. Not a polite knock, but full-on open up right now pounding. I jumped a foot in the air. Devin got there first, peered through the peephole, then motioned for Ryan. It was Deborah and Michael. Both looked absolutely deranged. Deborah started screaming. "Open this door. This is a family emergency." Michael just stood there, arms folded, silent. Devin told them to leave. Deborah started shoving the door, like she could break it down with sheer willpower. I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't what happened next. Deborah actually managed to force the door open a few inches. Thank God for the hotel lock. She reached in and grabbed my arm. Not gently. Not "I want to talk." It was a full-on clawing yank. I screamed, "Get off me, Deborah." Yank back. For a second, it was a bizarre tug-of-war in a hotel hallway with my mother-in-law. Tara was right behind me, trying to pull her mom's hand off. Devin was yelling at Michael to back off. A couple of hotel employees finally ran up, followed by some guy in a suit who I guess was the manager. Deborah let go of me, but not before hissing, "You're ruining everything, you stupid girl." Like, okay, Cruella. The hotel staff threatened to call the police. Deborah launched into a rant about me kidnapping her son and endangering the baby. Michael looked uncomfortable for the first time, but still said nothing. Tara, bless her, started filming with her phone. I sincerely hope that video never sees daylight because I looked like a sleep-deprived raccoon. The police came, obviously. Nothing says good morning like 5 squad cars outside your hotel. Deborah was screaming at the officers about saving her son and protecting her grandchild. Michael just glared at Devin like it was his fault. The cops separated us, took statements, and told Deborah and Michael they were banned from the property. Deborah tried to argue, but the officer shut her down. Tara's boyfriend sent me the video just in case. After that, the adrenaline crash hit me like a truck. It felt gross, shaky, just done. I wanted to go home, but we couldn't. I wanted to call my mom, but she's been gone for over a decade. Ryan tried to hug me, but I just sat on the bed, head in my hands. The only thing that helped was Tara sitting next to me, whispering that I wasn't crazy, that her mom had always been like this, but it was getting worse. She said she'd never seen Deborah go this far, not even with Jessica. Which, yikes, still not over that revelation. We checked out just before noon. The manager apologized, but it was obvious he was just glad to see us go. I didn't blame him. Who wants domestic drama in their TripAdvisor reviews? Devin offered to drive us wherever. We piled our stuff into his beat-up SUV and just sat there, trying to figure out what the actual hell to do next. Every option felt unsafe. Our apartment. No way. Another hotel. Deborah would find us. Stay with Tara. Her apartment is tiny, and Michael has a spare key. Don't even get me started. Our only real option was my dad's place. He's a retired guy with a big old house and a frankly excellent security system. Plus, he's never liked Deborah. He lives about 40 minutes away, but it felt like another planet. The drive was silent, except for Tara and Devon quietly debating whether they should change their locks, too. Ryan stared out the window, clutching that envelope of childhood photos like it was a bomb. I just scrolled through my phone watching group chats blow up. People asking if we were okay, if the rumors about us splitting up were true, if I'd really threatened to hurt myself. Thanks, Deborah. I didn't even bother replying. I just wanted to get somewhere no one could follow us. Pulling into my dad's driveway felt like reaching the finish line of a marathon I never signed up for. He was waiting on the porch, arms crossed, looking every inch the "don't mess with my kid" dad. I hugged him so hard I nearly broke his ribs. He didn't ask questions, just ushered us inside, handed me a mug of tea and said, "You're safe here. No one gets in without my say-so." God bless old men who still trust in deadbolts and motion lights. We crashed in the guest room and I finally got a few hours of real sleep. Until my dad's phone started blowing up. You guessed it. Deborah had found his number and was now calling him, demanding he bring her son home and return her grandchild to the family. Dad hung up, then blocked her. Which is more than I can say for Ryan, who still wouldn't block his parents. Get it, sort of. He's scared. But it was infuriating. That night, the four of us, me, Ryan, Tara, and Devon, sat around my dad's kitchen table eating takeout, making a list of everything Deborah had done. It was like putting together a true crime podcast, except the murderer was my mother-in-law, and the victim was my sanity. Tara admitted she was scared her mom would come after her next. Devon said he was ready to call the cops if Michael set foot anywhere near their place. Ryan just kept apologizing over and over, until I finally snapped and told him to stop. This wasn't his fault. Or at least not all his fault. Deborah had been like this forever, and nobody ever called her on it. I didn't know where we went from there. We couldn't stay at my dad's forever. But for now it was the only place that felt safe. Deborah was still out there, making calls, spreading rumors, trying to get everyone on her side. I kept waiting for someone to knock on the door, or for my phone to light up with another insane message. Part of me wanted to fight back. Post the video. Go public. Burn it all down. But another part just wanted to sleep for a week and pretend this wasn't my life. I wish I could say it was over, but something told me Deborah wasn't done. She never is. Here I am again. If you're still following this story, I see you, and I'm sending you caffeine and solidarity, because living it was wild, but retelling it is almost as exhausting. This part. This is where she drags my extended family into the mess, and things get even messier. We'd been at my dad's for maybe 3 days. It was weird. Like being in high school again, but with more swearing and less privacy. My dad's house is old and creaky, and he's one of those guys who still uses an actual answering machine, so there was always this weird beep in the background. I tried to keep things normal, helped with dishes, scrolled endlessly through TikTok, and tried to ignore the fact that my notifications were blowing up every 5 minutes with some new drama. Ryan mostly hid in the guest room, playing mobile games or just pacing. We kept thinking maybe if we just lay low long enough, Deborah would get bored and move on to obsessing about Tara's haircut or Michael's cholesterol again. If only. The first sign things were about to go off. My cousin Barbara called out of nowhere. She's a couple years older, lives about 20 minutes away, and we're not super close, but she's one of those people who always wants to mediate and keep the peace. She opened with, "So, I just talked to your mother-in-law. Why is she saying you're," and I quote, "refusing to let Ryan leave the house or see his family?" I almost dropped my phone. I tried explaining, but she interrupted constantly, saying she just wanted both sides. By the end, she was asking if maybe I should just meet Deborah halfway. Yeah, let me just compromise with someone who tried to drag me out of a hotel room by my arm. I hung up and called Tara. She was pissed. She'd gotten the same kind of call, only her version was that I'd brainwashed Ryan and was keeping the baby from the family. The wildest part. Some people believed it. My Aunt Marilyn, my dad's sister, who's always been a little much, texted my dad an entire essay about family unity and how young girls these days don't respect traditions. I couldn't believe it was happening, but there it was. Deborah had started calling everyone she could find, spinning her twisted version of events, and it was actually working on some people. Ryan, at this point, was barely functioning. He kept saying, "Maybe if I just talk to Mom. Maybe if I explain." And I just wanted to shake him. Devin and Tara came over one night with pizza, trying to lighten the mood, but it was awkward. Devin scrolled through his phone, looking up restraining order drama stories, and Tara kept making nervous jokes. At one point, my dad snapped that if Deborah showed up, he'd call the cops before she even made it up the steps. He said it with this look I'd never seen before. Half I'm not joking and half I can't believe this is my life now. The next morning the real circus started. I went out on the porch to get some air and avoid the smell of my dad's burnt toast. There was a letter taped to the mailbox. A plain white envelope, my name scribbled on the front. Inside was this rambling, half-typed, half-handwritten letter. Deborah said that if I continued spreading lies about her and her family, she'd have no choice but to take legal action for defamation and character assassination. I started looking up legal stuff, trying to figure out if we could actually get a restraining order. My dad called a friend who knew a lawyer and got some basic advice, but everything takes forever and costs a fortune. Ryan and I argued about whether to just move out of state. He wanted to, but I didn't want to be forced to run by Deborah. Tara said she wanted to stay close, at least for now. She was worried Deborah would try to find some way around the order. Devin suggested we all get together once a week just to keep an eye on things and check in. For a while, it felt like we were in a weird little support group, sharing updates about whether Deborah had tried anything new. Then a new low. Deborah showed up at my dad's again, this time after dark. She brought Michael, of course. This time my dad didn't even answer the door. He just called the cops as soon as he saw them on the camera. Deborah stood outside, yelling into her phone, saying she was being denied her rights as a grandmother and that the law would be on her side. The police came, told her if she came back again she'd be arrested. Michael just glared at the house, then got in the car and left. After that, my dad installed more cameras, put up a new lock, even got one of those doorbell alarms that blare if you touch the handle. I started keeping my phone charged and near me at all times, just in case. Ryan finally agreed to block his mom's number, and Tara did the same. It felt weird, like drawing a line in the sand, but also knowing the tide would just keep coming in. The fallout wasn't just family drama. Deborah called my old landlord, tried to get me blacklisted from renting in the area. She sent messages to my friends, claiming I was unstable and needed help. Some people ghosted me. Others called to check if I was okay, but you could hear the skepticism in their voices. It was humiliating. One day, I went into the living room and found my dad staring at his phone, mouth tight. He handed it to me. There was a Facebook post from Deborah, tagging half the family, saying she was praying for her son's safe return, and asking for community support during this difficult time. People were commenting, some with prayers, others asking what happened, a few with not-so-subtle digs at me. The comment section looked like a war zone. That night, Ryan and I sat outside on the back steps, watching the neighbor's cat hunt moths. He asked if I still wanted to have this baby. If I was scared it would just make things worse. I told him honestly I didn't know what I wanted, except for Deborah to go away and leave us alone. He nodded, and we just sat there not saying anything. The next morning we made a decision. We couldn't keep hiding, hoping it would all blow over. We needed to actually do something. So we started prepping to file for a restraining order. My dad agreed to help with the paperwork. Tara said she'd testify if it came to that. She was done protecting her mom. Devin started collecting all the videos, texts, screenshots, everything. Felt like moving from defense to offense for once. Not going to lie, I was nervous. Suing your mother-in-law. This isn't a soap opera. But here we are. But if you've read this far, you know by now Deborah doesn't give up easy. Filing paperwork is just the start. Okay, here's the update where things got so public, so messy, and honestly I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. The last post ended with us prepping a restraining order after she tried to storm my dad's house, set the family group chat on fire, and torpedo my reputation in our town. If you thought the saga peaked there, well, strap in. The week we started the paperwork, it felt like we were living in a bunker. Dad was obsessively checking the security cameras. Tara was sleeping on our couch. No one could agree on what to eat. Ryan kept leaving half-drunk cups of coffee everywhere, which drove my dad nuts, but no one had the energy to care about chores. I kept expecting Deborah to show up at any moment, but it actually went weirdly quiet for a bit, almost like she was waiting for us to make a move. That freaked me out even more. You know that feeling when everything's calm and you just know it's about to explode? We finally got a court date. Took forever. Seriously, the amount of red tape just to file a basic restraining order is wild. My dad helped with the forms, which felt like some sad family project. Tara pulled together screenshots. Devin put together a folder of videos. His phone is now like 80% all meltdown footage. And Ryan spent hours on the phone with whoever would listen, trying to wrap his head around the whole thing. I caught him once scrolling through old photos of his mom and him from when he was a kid. He didn't say anything about it, but he didn't need to. That whole week, Deborah went full nuclear online. She started by making a bunch of vague Facebook posts about losing her son to a manipulative outsider and praying for family restoration. She tagged Ryan, me, even Tara. Then she started DMing random people, asking them to pray for her grandchild's safety and help bring her son home. It was so embarrassing. People started looking at us funny at the grocery store. Some neighbors stopped waving. I got weird DMs from people I barely knew asking if the rumors were true. The old ladies at my dad's church group started dropping concerned hints about young marriages and stress. I mean, I even got a text from my ex-roommate from college. "Hey, are you okay? Heard things are rough. Not gonna lie, I wanted to move to another planet." Meanwhile, Ryan was getting texts from Michael, his dad, every other day. Michael's messages ranged from, "You're being selfish," to, "Your mother is heartbroken," to these weird reminders about family traditions and what happened to Jessica. If you read the earlier posts, you know that name still freaks Ryan out. Michael never apologized, never took our side, just kept trying to guilt-trip him. I asked Ryan why he even read the messages, and he just shrugged. I think he was hoping for some sign that Michael would finally step up, but honestly, it was never going to happen. I wish I could say we handled all this with grace and dignity, but mostly it just made us snappier and more awkward as a couple. We fought about stupid stuff like whether to get takeout or try to cook, who was hogging the charger, whether to answer the landline or let it go to voicemail. My dad kept reminding me to eat. Tara kept stress cleaning. And Devin started spending more time at his own place, which I totally get. Even the cat started hiding when voices got raised. The day before court, Deborah pulled her biggest stunt yet. She showed up at my dad's place with Michael and tried to serve us with grandparents' rights papers. I'm not even kidding. She'd found some printout online and written in all the blanks herself. She handed it to me on the porch, all smug, and said, "I'm going to fight for my grandchild whether you like it or not." I told her to get off the property and slammed the door. The actual court day was surreal. We all got up before sunrise because Ryan was so anxious he couldn't sleep. Tara did my hair in the kitchen, hands shaking the whole time. My dad put on his only decent suit, which he hadn't worn since my mom's funeral. We packed all the evidence, printouts, phones, USB drives, the whole 9 yards, into a grocery bag. Ryan and I barely spoke on the drive. He just kept tapping his foot and scrolling through Reddit on his phone. When we got to the courthouse, Deborah and Michael were already there, standing with their arms crossed and faces like stone. Deborah had her hair done and was wearing this weirdly formal dress, like she was there for Sunday service, not a restraining order hearing. The waiting room was tiny and tense. Deborah kept glancing over at us, and Michael stared at Ryan like he wanted to say something but couldn't. Tara sat between us, scrolling through her phone, and my dad kept muttering under his breath about wasting a whole day on this nonsense. The judge was late, so we all just sat there, pretending not to notice the glances from the clerk and the other people waiting for their own cases. One guy kept sneezing, which somehow made everything feel even more awkward. When our case was called, I felt this weird mix of anger and, I don't know, not fear but something close. I was ready to fight, but also half expecting the whole thing to go off the rails, because, well, look at how everything else had gone. The judge asked us to explain what was happening, and Deborah immediately launched into this huge speech about losing her son and fearing for her grandchild. She started crying, which, not gonna lie, was a little impressive. She even had tissues ready. Michael just sat behind her, arms crossed. Our lawyer. Well, technically my dad's friend's friend who agreed to help us out, tried to lay out the facts. The hotel incident, the trespassing, the fake profiles, the police calls, the letters, the threats. He had screenshots, videos, all of it. The judge kept asking Deborah to let him finish, but she kept interrupting, saying, I was trying to cut Ryan off from his family and poisoning the next generation. At one point, she tried to hand the judge a stack of printed-out emails, but the judge just told her to sit down. Then Deborah started yelling about what happened to Jessica, which made the judge stop and ask for clarification. Deborah wouldn't explain, just kept saying, he knows what I mean, looking straight at Ryan. I looked at Ryan and saw his hands were shaking. The judge finally told Deborah that if she didn't calm down, she'd be removed from the courtroom. She slammed her hand on the table and hissed, You're all making a mistake. When it was my turn, I tried to just lay it out. How Deborah had been coming after me since before the wedding. How she'd shown up unannounced, called and texted constantly, tried to ruin my reputation, and physically grabbed me at the hotel. I read a couple of the worst texts out loud. At one point I just said, I don't know what else to do. I just want her to leave us alone. Ryan spoke too. Finally, he told the judge that Deborah had always tried to control his life, that he'd let it slide for years, but this was different. He said, I can't do this anymore. I love my mom, but I can't let her ruin my marriage. Deborah started crying again, but this time it wasn't as convincing. Michael just kept staring at the floor. The judge asked Tara if she wanted to add anything, and Tara stood up, voice shaking, and said, I love my mom, but she's hurting people. She needs to stop. The judge nodded and said, they'd heard enough. The ruling felt like it took forever, but the judge finally granted the restraining order. Deborah cannot come within a certain distance of us. Can't contact us directly, and can't show up at my dad's house. The judge said some stuff about escalating behavior and how this was about safety, not family drama. Deborah tried to argue, but the judge just ignored her. She started yelling, This isn't over. You'll regret this. And had to be escorted out by the bailiff. Michael followed, but not before glancing back at Ryan. That look said everything. Disappointment, anger, maybe a little fear. After court, we all just stood outside for a while, trying to process what happened. Tara was shaking. Devin grabbed her hand, and my dad actually smiled for the first time in weeks. Ryan just sort of deflated. Like the last bit of hope he had for reconciling with his parents was gone. Felt weird. Not happy. Not sad. Just tired. But also, for the first time, a little safe. But of course, Deborah wasn't done. Over the next week, she started telling everyone she'd been wrongly accused and unjustly banned from her family. She posted about us on Facebook, tagged random people, even tried to start a GoFundMe for her legal expenses. Some people in the community took her side. Others messaged me to say they were sorry for what happened. My Aunt Marilyn called again to say she thought it was all blown out of proportion. My cousin Barbara stopped talking to me completely. It messed with my head. Not gonna lie. Ryan and I fought about what to do next. He wanted to move out of state, start over somewhere without all this baggage. But I was stubborn. I didn't want Deborah to win by driving us away. Tara said she wanted to stay close, at least for now. She was worried Deborah would try to find some way around the order. Devin suggested we all get together once a week just to keep an eye on things and check in. For a while, it felt like we were in a weird little support group, sharing updates about whether Deborah had tried anything new. Meanwhile, life kept rolling. The baby was still coming whether we were ready or not. My dad bought a new video monitor for the house, just in case. We started looking for a new apartment, somewhere not so close to the drama. Ryan blocked his mom on everything, and Tara did the same. Devin helped Tara change her locks. I kept my phone on silent just in case, but every time it buzzed, my heart jumped. So yeah, that's where we're at. What would you have done in our place? Have you ever had to draw such a hard line with family, or deal with someone so intensely manipulative? Tell me what you think, I really want to know.